if Sandy, if you could identify your scribe so that Justin can pin your scribe for everyone to see.
Okay, thank you, Hank. Our scribe is Mark Alvut. A-L-V-U-T.
Okay,
There he is.
great. Thank you very much, Sandy.
Thank
And
you.
thanks, Mark. And you'll have a 3-minute timer, and then you can give a more detailed report.
Okay, can everyone hear me? Okay, good, perfect, thank you. So our task was item 1, improve communications. And Jeff mentioned, I think one of the key factors that has affected us all over the past 4 years is going through the COVID period. And he mentioned we went through a paradigm shift of communications. We were all used to in-person meetings. Nobody was doing virtual. Now there's a lot of virtual meetings out there. Zoom, if you will, we refer to them Zoom, but they're really virtual meetings. And Claudia referred to turning the lights on, and I think characterized it best. You might call it keeping the lights on. And I think we've seen it with a lot of groups. Her group in particular said was very vibrant before COVID, 40 to 50 people. Then when COVID hit, they went virtual, which had some good attendance. But then with the virtual Zoom meetings, it dropped down to 8 or 10, and now they're trying to rebuild. And I've seen that with the Cayuga Wake Up Call. We've probably seen a lot of meetings where we had great in-person meetings, then we went virtual and attendance is dropping. So whether we call it turning the lights on or keeping the lights on, improving the communications to all members, and for us to, as GSRs, to carry that message was one of our key themes. And in doing that, we were trying to better understand the organizational structure. Where does that communication come from? It was interesting to hear an example of the organizational structure being sort of top down, where the groups or all the members are the largest portion of it, which would be the top of the pyramid. But in an inverted pyramid, then you go down to the GSRs and the area and the district. And being brand new, I don't even fully understand it. But it's like if you come off the football field in a Bills game, who are you going to listen to? The defensive line coordinator, the offensive line coordinator, the coach. So understanding the structure, passing that message to our members so there's better communications across throughout the whole organization allows the groups to get better and spread the message and ultimately increase membership. Let's see, it was interesting to hear Amy mention that the triangle Chuck B referred to, we've got the 12 steps for the members, we've got the 12 traditions for the group, and the 12 concepts for the area. So the better we all understand that structure and can carry the message, hopefully the stronger that message is, and we can increase our membership at all of those meetings and rebuild the membership and get better at Zoom. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mark, and look forward to getting your report. That's just great. Who's next? Okay, Sue B, table 3. Can you identify your scribe for us, Sue?
Good morning. Thank you, Hank. Yes. Structure 3 did improving the work and visibility of the service committee, and our volunteer scribe has been Aiden. Thank you.
Okay, and Justin, if you're able to find Aiden and highlight him for us.
Oh, sorry, it's stuck. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we're waiting to, can you see who that is?
There she is. Got it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we had goal number 3, which is improving the work and visibility of the service committees. And everyone, we went through and everyone kind of shared their experience, and made 4 or 5 key points seemed to be a thread with everyone who shared. The first one had to do with the passing of the baton, like the transition from either one committee chair or one committee member to another. A lot of people who shared about feeling like it was trial by fire. Maybe we need more training on how to transition from one position to another, or make it part of, when a new member comes in, part of like a training program. It was also suggested that we could possibly take all past members and chairs and put a phone list together to answer any questions that might come up, or prepare a panel, or prepare a pamphlet, or like that can continue to be reviewed every time a new transition is made, just kind of to keep it updated, and to know what's available. From my personal example, I was on the corrections committee, and I wasn't aware that we could get books for the girls. So that's something, just let everyone knows what's available, and nothing kind of slips through cracks. So the second thing that was brought up was technology. Outreach has had to be done often in the past in person, but post-COVID especially, it's been hard to do just in-person outreach. So kind of getting technology on board with committee members and chairs on how to reach the most people possible, and maybe even working with the technology committee on increasing and improving the systems, and just knowing what systems are available to us, especially now that everything seems to be shifting more to hybrid or fully online forms of communication. The fourth thing that came up quite often was personal responsibility, home group responsibility, and sponsorship responsibility. There are a lot of new members of AA who kind of got sober during COVID. And because of that, I think a lot of the knowledge about how AA works has been lost to a lot of the newer people who are joining. So we discussed maybe doing service mentorship or sponsor promotions, like service sponsor promotion, maybe doing a sponsorship campaign so that people know that service knowledge is just as important as like step knowledge and meeting knowledge, and should be passed on to the next generation. And we discussed that even in districts where the lights are on, it tends to be top heavy. So there's a few individuals doing a lot of the work. We need to get more people involved. Oops, sorry.
Yeah, that's it. And that's great. It sounds like you've got a great report, and we'll look forward to a detailed email from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Who's next? Okay, Peter J.
Time to get
Peter J., you want to identify your scribe for us?
Peter, you're
You gotta
muted.
unmute, Pete. Peter J., do you want to, can you unmute?
Hank, Lud Alcoholic. Peter J. and I kind of split the group together, or shared the group.
Great. And
And
who's your scribe, Lud?
I just want to thank you for letting me do some service today. And Lila decided to do the scribe work for us. Thank you.
Great, okay. So we'll highlight Lila, and she can give us a 3-minute presentation. Thank you, Lud. Thank you,
Thank you.
Lila.
Okay. 3 minutes on just the goal 5 of revising the service structure. They spoke about reviving the districts, and about how, and with one district, Lud got out a map. They were in District 11 and found 21 home groups and to visit, just so they could get a name and a phone number of someone they could reach out to. And then they were trying to get those people just to show up at a district meeting, so that then eventually they could appoint positions like treasurer, to keep it simple and be able to make it so people had a task they could understand. That from the Early Bird Big Book in Fredonia, Peter talked about meeting with one of the oldest members who died about a month ago, stated that dark districts have long been a part of his District 18. And he's hoping that they can get them to come on at least a little bit, although it seems to be in a very chaotic way at this time. He heard a speaker that talked about and showed him how that talk about how technology has changed our access to general service office in New York City, and that he believes we're on a journey of change right now. There was some talk about how District 3 operated in 2014, 15, and 16, and how it's still operating today. Another spoke about how in our structure that our counties of Cattaraugus and Chautauqua, which are actually outlined as different districts, are a lot of country roads, but they do the best they can to get the information out to people. It's very difficult to get spread out to such sparse populated places. Another stated about how Karen is the DCM for 1819. She says it's doing very well with much energy, stepping up to get involved with the boots on the ground, and the fact that they're that district is going to be hosting NIPEN pretty soon. They're hosting the area meeting, which all of us will be at in November. Stated about how the effects of COVID have been difficult, could use some support from area to be able to better look at the committees to see how they can make them better function. And then it was talked about how the key to our service structure is these districts and the structure that we have right now. But it really just takes getting a couple of groups to get things together, to get things started, because it will create a buzz to show that the spirit of AA it gets alive no matter what, when just a few of us gather together, that no matter what, it will happen. And the last thing that was stated in that group that I thought was really funny was that he heard a statement about that the sicker you are, the more service you need to do, and how we should blast that throughout the structure. That's it for goal 5. I'm ready for goal 6 when you are.
Thank you very much, Lila. I just got a text from Chuck telling me that we need to speak right into the microphone, that when I turn my head to look at the screen, they can't hear us virtually. So I just wanted to pass that on, because we'll now be asking people in the room to come up and give reports. And so I'll ask, when you do that, don't do what I'm doing and move your head around. Speak right into the microphone so everyone can hear you. Who's first now? You, good. Here comes your scribe. Thank you very much. And we'll run a 3-minute timer, and you won't be able to see it, but we'll just give you the hook, at the time.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lori, and I am an alcoholic. And when Pete was looking at the goal 1, it said clarify the roles of the area committee, the GSA, the groups, the membership, and carrying out our mission. So we thought that we should go to home groups districts and thank you, and make announcements that all AA members have a voice, and the importance of having DCMs, GCRs, and CCR reps to help carry the message, and the importance of service work outside of the home group. We also suggest that maybe we could have monthly workshops around the area, sharing sessions for service opportunities in Alcoholics Anonymous. And if we can maybe get some type of statement, how to explain in layman's terms the structure of Area 50 and its component parts. And is it possible to get home group emails so they can be notified of the events taking place in Area 50, because they just don't even know that we come here, unfortunately, unless we spread the word. And then form a committee to develop a shared message that can be delivered to home groups that describes current area activities. And that's all we came up with. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Who's next? Jeff's table. Thank you, Tony.
Morning, I'm Tony Alcoholic. The group had talked about the understanding the role constituency in the group, district, area, and so forth. And we went back to the upside down triangle where it goes all back to the group, okay? And a situation where in a particular, use that word constituency means you're a constituent of the group, means you have a vote in that group. So, but there's a lot of people don't understand that. A lot of people are in groups, barely meet. They don't have business meetings. They don't have group conscious meetings. So one of the suggestions was that we have some, there would be an explanation that would have that upside down triangle on the card, a little explanation. Our whole fellowship works from the group down, and the more involved you could fellowship, the further down triangle you go until you do hit bottom. So you could actually hit another if you want to really get involved and become a delegate, right? So, why are you laughing? Is that funny? So the point is, we want to do some of the things that the groups really need to do. They need to have a GSR, register their GSR, so they can get the information packet as to what a GSR does, and going to the meetings and things of that nature. Also talked about a little bit about some of the groups, the structure of distributing funds. If they are having a group conscious meeting, some of the groups don't know what to do with it. A lot of groups are just having picnics, right? So we could also get some information out about that and have that again, understanding that it's all about valuing your vote in the group and what the group does and how they go about interacting with the rest of the groups in a particular district of things and staying connected, because it seems to me that in a lot of the groups, they don't meet very often with group conscious. They don't want to get involved with service, okay, because they don't feel that service is needed. All they got to do is just go to a meeting and maybe help out the newcomers and make some coffee, and that's it, right? But there's more to it. So, and what happens then is you have individuals that are involved with judge the group, right? We got to stop doing that also. We can't go to the group and say, service or whatever. Time's up. Time's up. Time's up. He is a real servant of AA, and will report in his email. Thank you, Tony. Number 3.
Way to go, Tony.
I am Heidi Alcoholic. Number 3 is improving the work and visibility of service committees. The moderator was Joanne, and we had a lot of the similar discussion as 3. We had, let's see, discussion open, communicating with the groups more, and having the job descriptions for the committee members and the requirements for committee members, so that when they sign up for these positions, they know what they're in for, time-wise. And better to communicate between committees and home groups. And there were a lot of comments. It was a really good discussion. Let's see. she expressed a lot about how she would like more information and possibly having monthly meetings to be more involved and to know her role better. And there's a lot of, should I go through the comments section? Somebody said they don't like the dark comment, the idea that it's considered dark, you know, something more open or on or off, you know. And someone mentioned that a lot has been lost, a lot of communication has been lost in the Zoom era. And someone suggested or an outreach or an outreach chair. And at the GSR level, to have business meetings before the meetings instead of after the meetings. And also to have the emails staying updated so that people can communicate who are past positions that can stay up to date on things and not just be taken off emails. And that's all I got.
Thanks, Heidi.
Thank you, Heidi. I got a suggestion, by the way, from our chair, so it's more than a suggestion, that in addition to getting these reports into Nikki, that we make those available to the whole area. That we'll make a decision either put it on the website or something along those lines, or will be revealed. Who's next? And it looks like Steve. All right. So Nancy, Megan, Starla, Dan, Ryan, and myself had topic number 4, which is to increase cooperation and coordination with the area. Based on Chuck's overview prior to it, we learned that the intergroups, they handled a lot more than a traditional intergroup would. Schedules, literature, stuff like that. They get into the committee work and well. Area would do prior to it. So one of the suggestions earlier was for the area to appoint a liaison to each of them. And that position has been filled, and Dean has been doing that for a while, but that's one individual handling 4 intergroups that have really been doing a lot of good work for a long time. And so prior to that, there was obviously some feeling of maybe resentment or competition or things were territorial. Tradition of this activity increased cooperation. So we know that the intergroups have been functioning for a long period of time, but want to support the current activities and cease with the duplication of efforts. And in order to do this, we have to have a better understanding of what they actually do, who's doing what, with what, when are they doing it, when are they meeting, and in order to do that, the area itself has to become more involved. So in more than just one individual on an area committee member needs to go down and be a part of these different groups. Foster that. Understand that Dean's doing this, he's doing a great job. We know that we have the New York Penn, Genesee, Wyoming, Niagara, and Buffalo. We know that John, I don't know who the Genesee, Wyoming vote at the area committee meetings, so that to cross-pollinate and get these things, people involved. And then if we can increase the attendance, it's really that simple to develop a relationship, to get people more and more involved. We can then do a better job at supporting each other. Basically, we came down to that we need to make this a little more sexy, because it's not real sexy. And that's what we're trying to bring sexy back. So, and paying attention, we want the newcomer to have a job. Job can be as simple as you're going to go to one of the meetings with someone who has a little bit more experience. And then we can rotate out before. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Steve. I just celebrated Sexy Beck for a long time.
Give it up.
Patrick, table 5.
Thank you for this, and thank you for this idea of these roundtables. And this is something that has been dear to my heart. This and Pete's in the room, and Brian's in the room, and Sue B, I think, is online. And this is about rebuilding districts. We're building out districts, and it was a great group. That was Patrick, DG, Jack, Sean, and Jen. Thanks. What's beautiful about this is Jen said something that made me giggle, and she's like, "We need a map." I'm like, "We need a map for a while, right?" And so what we talked about is that what's the history of this? When did we come down with 23 districts? And I believe it was 1985 or 1982 for this fine young woman right here. Went back to archives and looked this up. We went from 11 to 23, and what was the reasoning behind it? We thought more districts means more participation. I thought more vegetables would make me taller. It didn't work, right? Observation. And what's beautiful about this is that as we've gone through this, as we went through all of these numbers, right, we need a registrar. This isn't pointing fingers, but we need a registrar where, as someone in CPC who is dealing with domestic violence, for example, I need to be able to go to this place and say, what districts are they in? How many women's meetings are they? So I can send out this information, Zoom links, in person, and all that. The idea of rebuilding the districts from our table was it brought up a lot of conversation of how much more participation did we have at General Assemblies? How much more participation did we have with our GSRs? There should be 528 GSRs in this room right now. I counted, they're not, right? How many DCMs should there be in this room? 23, right? And well, 23 to begin with, but now 22, right? And so what the interesting aspect of all of this is that what we're doing isn't working the way we would like it to. So 6 and 7 is working together, 4 and 5 are working together, 18 and 19 are working together, 16's been super strong, 15's been doing right. Before the pandemic hit, we had momentum. There's a little shift in our momentum now. And so now we're leaning on each other to help one another. And the truth of the matter is some of the things that came up at the table were, how do we get more participation? Sean down in the Southern Tier, in Cattaraugus, and Dave brought up these things, right? The fables at the tables. I haven't been to an assembly where someone threw it yet, right? There's this of what these districts learned from the past and how can we help now? And the DCMs and the DCMs that we have now, right? All of our things were about how do we be more inclusive? And the idea of rebuilding has been something that's been on the table since 2017. If that happens, if we move forward, that'll be great. I can't wait to write this email because there's a lot of notes, but it was a wonderful conversation, spirited in the idea of what was said in the beginning. A child is born today that will need us, will need AA tomorrow. And how can we help that child find us?
Let's see, table 6, it was Brian's table. Great. Thank you, Bob.
Hank's hesitating because he knows I'm not known for my brevity. At table 6, we were asked to look at reimagining the structure of the assemblies. We had the good fortune to have a young man, Ryan, who is here for his first General Service Assembly, coming up on a year of sobriety, and I think we quickly put on our AA hats, and our thoughts were directed towards, okay, how does this new person end up showing up at a service assembly? And he was actually asked by another longtime member of the General Service Assembly to attend, and here he was. We did look at the structure and function of the assemblies. We did take a look at it primarily from the areas of how are we encouraging participation in education. Our first question was, you know, what would make the assembly more attractive, similar to what I think a lot of us ended up looking at, you know, how do we attract people? Does everyone even know that we have general service assemblies? That did lead eventually to a discussion about, you know, we seem to identify it, at least as our table, that we don't seem to be communicating just in simple items like flyers to the groups as well as we had to in the past. Maybe some of this is due to COVID, but you know, thinking about as members of this body to make sure when we're going to meetings, we're carrying these flyers around and we're getting them out there at other meetings so people at least know that we are here. We did have a pretty long conversation about what it was like prior to. We still feel like we are battling that headwinds. People are hesitant to come here. They don't want to deal with confrontation. There's also some of us talked about as individuals. What if I throw my opinion out there and nobody agrees with me? Where does that lead me? I mean, there's some fear factors as individuals that might sometimes keep people that may be interested from otherwise participating in something as large and as unknown as these assemblies. There was a lot of politics. There didn't seem to be essentially any real trust in a group conscience. There was a lot of manipulation going on. And I think, again, the feeling was that we are still experiencing some of that. One of the points of attraction that was pointed out was an out-of-town speaker was an individual's attraction to come here, you know, looking at the structure of our assembly. I mean, maybe it's important to bring in a speaker that might be attractive to people who may have no interest in service work whatsoever, but may end up here because they're just attracted by what that speaker might have to say, or whatever the topic might be that that speaker's discussing. We, I know I'm going to miss a lot of points here, and I do apologize for that. Again, still running into some groups are adamant against it. One of the things we did talk about was to look at maybe our participation in service in those 3 legacies, and it's important to share, you know, that the importance of service in our own sobriety to make it more attractive for people to come and be part of our.
Way to go, Bob.
And again, we'll look forward to that email. Thank you very much.
Yeah, just push them out of the way.
Absolutely. Okay, so thank you so much to everyone for your participation. Remember, we're just kicking off this inventory process, and we want everybody here to be an ambassador. Remember, we want to get to as many groups, as many who have ideas as possible, and get those by email into us. And per Ryan's suggestion, we'll make those all available to the area, and then we'll have those inventory questions come out October 8th, and we'll be moving into the month of October, where we'll do the same process all over again to bring us into the next assembly on November 12th. So thanks to everyone for your participation. We're just kicking it off. Let's get started. Let's carry the message. And Brian, it's back to you.